Hello party people. Today I figured I would do a little sit down chat with y'all. So I asked you guys on TikTok and Instagram what your biggest book icks are and unpopular book opinions. I read a couple of them, but I haven't read all of them. So I'm so curious to see what you guys think and hear your book opinions, because that's the amazing thing about reading that I love, is that we all have different opinions, and reading is just such a personal experience that it's okay to disagree, it's okay to have different opinions, and I love hearing everybody's. And it's so amazing that we can have a little community to talk about books. So I'm gonna pull them up on my computer now because I use my phone to film because I can't afford a camera just yet, but I plan on being rich and famous one day. It's been 24 years and it hasn't happened yet, but I'm still holding out hope that I will be rich and famous. I'm manifesting it. I'm gonna be a millionaire. It's gonna happen for me, So for now, this is what we're using. Okay, so the first one is the intimate scenes in Colleen Hoover books. I totally agree with this one. This is a big ick for me. Whenever I read a Colleen Hoover book, it was never ooh, for this steamy scenes or whatever. It was never ooh, you know what I mean? It was always what? I don't know what it was, but it always felt like the language and the steamy scenes kind of came out of nowhere almost. Ooh, I'm spilling coffee all over myself. I'm gonna just go clean this up and then catch you later. And we're back. Also, I got this from Disney World when I went in high school. Isn't that just the cutest little cup you ever seen? Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, Colleen Hoover steamy scenes. But yeah, the intimate scenes in Colleen Hoover books just never quite gave what needed to be given, and it always just felt a little bit out of nowhere, or I don't know what it was exactly, but it just never really hit for me personally. I actually did get another Colleen Hoover book opinion. The more I read Colleen Hoover, the more I feel like I'm on Wattpad. Have a chapter with depth, please. Which I do get. I do 100% agree. When you read, and I've only read, wow, can I make a complete sentence? The only Colleen Hoover books that I've read so far are Verity and It Ends With Us. And as much as I enjoyed them, and I enjoyed, I think, the most the community, because it was so popular and having other people read the books, it made it more fun to read them because I knew that other people were reading them and it was more fun to talk about it. But the book itself, I didn't necessarily love. It was okay, and I think It Ends With Us, great messaging, good story. Verity was interesting. Verity I think I liked better than It Ends With Us, but overall, I always recommend Colleen Hoover to, especially people just getting into reading and beginners. I think it's a great gateway book, I guess. It's good. It's not she's not my favorite author and those aren't my favorite books, but I don't think, I'm not here for the slander. I know on Book Talk especially, Colleen Hoover gets a lot of slander, but I will say that she's definitely not my favorite author, and the books do tend to feel a little Wattpad-y. Someone said, I didn't like The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I hope I'm saying her name right. I've actually never read that book, and I really never had any desire to, so I probably won't. It Ends With Us was honestly one of the worst books I've ever read. The writing was awful, and it read like a bad fan fiction. Yeah, so kind of what I said before, Colleen Hoover definitely, especially once you've read Colleen Hoover and start going to other books, you notice it more how just the writing style is a bit different. I think she serves a purpose, and if you're in the vibe and in the mood for a Colleen Hoover book, then it fits the vibe and it's perfect for that. But I wouldn't say it's one of the best books that I've read. I enjoyed them when I read them, but then when I look back on them, I'm they were okay, But I think they serve a purpose, and I will always recommend them for people, especially just getting into reading. The stories are great, just not my fave. Someone said Haunting Adeline is written like a bad Wattpad story. And this I also kind of agree with. It's a very guilty pleasure, dark romance type of situation, stalker, he's a stalker. And then there's some scenes that really possibly scarred me for life. If you've read that book, the gun scene, that will never leave my brain ever. That will stay with me for life. Yeah, I think it serves its purpose. Really any type of book. When you're in the mood for it and you're in the vibe for something like that, when you're in the mood for a certain type of book, it could be a 1-star horrible book. Not saying that Haunting Adeline is a horrible book, but I'm saying a 1-star could be a 5-star when you're really in the mood for that kind of vibe or that kind of genre. When I was in the mood for it, it hit. But then after a while, it's overall, I wouldn't really recommend it to anybody personally. When the protagonist meets someone at the end with the same name as their dead loved one. Ooh, it's a little too cringy. I agree. If schools didn't make summer reading such a chore, more kids would enjoy it. I agree. But also, I was that kid in English. Why am I holding my cup like that? But I have to admit, I was always that kid who loved the assigned readings. English class has always been my favorite class. And you know how some kids make fun, oh, English teacher's always oh, the red door didn't mean the red door, or the water didn't mean the water, it had to have symbolism and, means rebirth. And when I tell you I ate that stuff up, I loved the symbolism, analyzing books and deriving life lessons from them. Like, that was my favorite thing. And I always loved English class. I loved reading new books, and I've loved reading since I was a little kid. I would ask for books for Christmas. I even remember, I don't know if it might have been elementary school or like very early middle school, whenever the Twilight series, I think it was actually elementary school, because I remember bringing it in, and I don't even know if I understood half of the stuff that was going on, but I was reading it anyway, and I remember like all the kids being like, oh my god, that's such a big book, and I'm like, yeah. I felt like the coolest kid in school, which I definitely wasn't, because I had like the big book on my desk, which is so stupid when I look back, but I remember feeling like, yeah, I'm reading a big book. That book on my desk, it's more than 100 pages. I don't know. But yeah, I've always loved reading. So I don't personally relate, but I can see how taking assigned reading and like having, you know, set standard questions and like not allowing much of a, you know, too much of a choice. I feel like if I was able to just pick it up and like not have like, I guess, the structure so much, it probably would have been more enjoyable. But then again, like a lot of the books that we read in school, I might not have picked up, you know, on my own, or would have been books that interested me. But I'm so glad I read those books because it had such great messages in it, and I was able to learn about, you know, really important messages and topics and empathy and perspective taking and culture, like all these things that maybe when I was in high school I wouldn't have picked up, you know, on my own. Kind of forced me to read new genres that actually, you know, I'm really glad that I did read those books, because some of those books ended up becoming like my favorite books because of it. But I do agree, if it wasn't such a chore or tedious, I feel like if there was a way that schools can make it more fun for kids, then kids would be more interested in reading. I don't know. The After series and The Kissing Booth weren't it. I've never read the books, but from what I've seen from the movies, like, I definitely agree with this. I've watched them. I ate them up, but like not in a good way. Like, I didn't enjoy the meal, you know? References to brands and companies like social medias and stores. I work at Plato's Closet, and when Connor Cobalt mentioned it in Addicted to You. Okay, yeah, I can see that, how that can be like a little icky. I don't know, like I know that authors are trying to like build a sense of relatability or like realism with it, but in books, like when I read about, you know, social media, like I know that social media like is a part of our life, but in books, like I'd rather not read about it. Cheating or miscommunication. And cheating will always be icky, will always be cringy. Like that's not the vibe. Miscommunication, I understand like some level of miscommunication is fine. Like if it's a small problem of communication, that's fine. But especially when miscommunication is like the third act breakup, and it's like this big thing, like, oh, especially when, like, you know that trope where they only hear part of the conversation? Like, I hate that. It's always like, come on, like, you couldn't have waited 2 seconds to like hear the end of the conversation. I just don't really love that miscommunication trope. And also third act breakup, I guess is fine when it's done right, but a lot of the times it's like, it happens so often in books that it's just like, come on, let's jazz it up a bit. A lot of times it's predictable, or it's like just very unnecessary, and it doesn't feel true to the characters or the story. It feels like just like a plot device. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense a lot of time. Long chapters. I agree with you. I love when there's short chapters, because I also feel so accomplished when I'm going through chapters and it feels like I'm getting through it. But when there's really long chapters, sometimes like it makes the book itself feel really long, even if that's not the case. So I love short chapters. It definitely makes me feel a little bit more accomplished while I'm reading. So I definitely agree with that one. Third act breakups, like I said, yeah, very icky, very cringy. A lot of times just unnecessary and not true to the story or the characters. So yeah. Cheating tropes, yeah, not about it. Miscommunication, not it. Pregnancy trope is actually the worst trope. Nope, I don't like it. Using illnesses like cancer as plot points, yeah, not a fan of that. Those were all the icks that you guys sent in. A lot of you guys have the same ones, like third act breakups and miscommunication. Like, I totally agree with that. I'll share some of my unpopular opinions and book icks too. To start off with unpopular opinions, I enjoyed Archer's Voice, but I didn't think it was like the best book ever. I don't think it wasn't really a 5-star for me. I think I loved the beginning. I loved like the small town vibes. I loved like their build up and the romance build up. I loved that. But once they got together, it just, I don't know, like the end of the book just didn't hit for me for some reason. I felt like I was really pushing myself to finish the book. Overall, it was a good book. Oh, I missed one. The entire Summer I Turned Pretty series was really boring. So I personally haven't read the Summer I Turned Pretty series, but I did watch the first season on Amazon Prime, and I really enjoyed it. And the vibes of the first season were immaculate. The joy I felt, the vibes all around for everyone when I watched the first season of The Summer I Turned Pretty, the vibes were immaculate. So I'm so excited for season 2. But again, like, I've never read the book, so I get that like it's more small town romance, and I could see how that might be boring. Like, it's not like crazy things going on, so I see that. I hear you, I see you, but I raise you the TV show and the vibes of the TV show and the joy of summer that it encapsulates. And the soundtrack, Taylor Swift. What was I saying about my book ick? Right, yeah, Archer's Voice I liked, but I didn't love as much as I thought I would love it. Insta-love. I hate insta-love. My favorite part of like any romance book is the build-up. So whenever there's insta-love, I don't like it. I don't love it. Ooh, Groundhog Day tropes in books and movies. It like stirs up this frustration in me, this anger that I don't really have a reason for, but it just makes me like irrationally angry, like irritated. I don't know what it is, but I just don't like Groundhog Day tropes. Like I don't want to see the same things happening over and over again. Like I don't want to see like a repeated day. Like I don't know, it just irritates me. I can't read or watch anything with like a Groundhog Day trope. Oh, real people on covers. I hate. You know, let my imagination run wild. Like that person you have on the cover, like that is not what I'm envisioning in my head. I don't want to purchase real people on my cover. Like it feels weird. It feels like I don't need a shirtless guy on the cover, especially when like some books like are really good books and they're not necessarily like those type of books like with the shirtless guy. Sometimes they have like real like good stories to them, but because of the cover it makes it seem like it's that kind of book when it's not. I also loved the cartoon covers when they first started getting popular, but now I don't like them. It's like too much and I'm just like not really a fan of them anymore, especially when it's like more of a mature book and then it has like this cartoony cover. For some books it works and for a lot of other books it just doesn't, and I don't love the look of the cartoon covers as much. Like the cartoon covers are definitely a step up from like the shirtless guy covers and like the real people on covers, but I feel like I just want more of a variety in like book covers. Ooh, okay, another one of my book icks is cursing or like angry men in books. Like when they're cursing, I laugh. So I'm like, all right, dude, like chill. It's not packing the punch I feel like they think it is. But yeah, I think those are all my book icks and unpopular opinions, and I loved getting to read yours. They made me laugh so much. I love just like being able to talk with you guys about books. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to sit down and chat with you guys. Don't forget to follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I love you, and I hope you have a great day.